This is Zahra again, and welcome back to PodZahra. I know, I ghosted you for a while because I was grinding my soul into academic dust to meet a deadline, and I'd say it did pay off. And it is kind of related to today's topic. But before telling you why, let me start with a confession. The trick I'm going to tell you about today is not something I invented. It's something I accidentally stumbled into years ago, and once I noticed it, I could not unsee it, and I could not stop using it. And then turned out it actually was a thing backed up by science. MOOCs, Massive Open Online Courses, or as I like to call them, academic YouTube, but with a structure, intention, and certificates that actually look pretty on your CV instead of just emotionally supporting your procrastination. Now, let me give you an example. I recently finished my micro bachelor in fundamentals of neuroscience from HarvardX, right? And here's the funny part. Yes, I did learn neuroscience, but I also unintentionally leveled up my English.
Level is here.
And that is what today's episode is about. How did it happen? That background process, peripheral learning. Because it's 2025 and learning doesn't have to be boring anymore. If you're interested, buckle up and watch the rest of the video. Section 1. Language is a tool, not a subject. Now, before we go any further, I need to say something that genuinely matters to me. Language is a tool, not a school subject. Not a field you major in just to pass exams. Somewhere along the way, largely thanks to the language learning industry, we started treating languages the way we treat physics or math. Something you study, get tested on, fail at, feel ashamed about, and then pay more money to fix. But think about this for a second. You learned your first language without flashcards, without grammar drills, without paying any language school. Not because children are magical, but because language was embedded in life. Games, stories, mistakes, social feedback. And of course, as adults, we don't have toggle time. We do want acceleration. And the good news is, adults are absolutely capable of accelerating language learning if we stop fighting our own brains.
Okay.
Section 2. Children versus adults, honestly. Let's be honest and fair. Children do have advantages. Their self-monitoring systems are underdeveloped. They don't overthink mistakes. They're socially forgiven for errors because everyone thinks that they're cute. And their affective filter is basically non-existent. By way of example, when a 5-year-old mispronounces a word and gets laughed at, she laughs too. She might even repeat the mistake or invent a new wrong version.
Just because it's funny.
Eventually, through exposure and self-correction, the language settles effortlessly. Adults, on the other hand, different story. Our ventrolateral prefrontal cortex is far more developed, which is great for planning, self-reflection, abstract thinking, writing essays. But it also strengthens the connection between cognition and emotion, which means more self-judgment, more fear of evaluation, more default mode network activation, more what if I sound stupid? And this is where people tell you, never learned language like a child. Which honestly really irritates me.
That's only
half the truth. Yes, adults don't acquire language the same way children do, but adults can do things children can't. And here's the key reframe. You are not your mistakes. Mistakes are not a reflection of your intelligence. They're a byproduct of exposure. If it was acceptable for you to make mistakes in your native language at 5, why are you morally punishing yourself now in a foreign language? The same prefrontal system that makes you overthink is also what allows you to write coherent essays, understand abstract lectures, integrate multiple concepts, learn intentionally. The trick isn't to eliminate adult cognition. It's to stop attaching your self-worth to linguistic slips. That's how you imitate the child's advantage without giving up the adult's one. Section 3. What science actually says. This isn't just personal philosophy. Decades of research support this. Stephen Krashen, one of the most influential figures in second language acquisition, showed that anxiety, boredom, and excessive self-monitoring can actively block language acquisition, something adults struggle with far more than children. He called it the affective filter. When it's high, input doesn't get processed properly. And Lev Vygotsky emphasized that learning happens best in a structured, supportive context, what he called the zone of praxical development. Not too easy, not too hard, just challenging enough. And yes, Eric Lineberg introduced the critical development period hypothesis. Biology matters, children do have timing advantages, but that does not mean adult learning is doomed, it just means it's different. And researchers like Ellen Bialystok have shown that bilingualism strengthens executive control, something adults are actually very good at developing. Neuroscientists like Michael Ullman further show that different memory systems support different aspects of language, systems adults can train intentionally. So, no, the science does not say give up, it says change the environment. Section 4. Why MOOCs are gold mines. Now, here's the turning point. A 5-year-old's mother could never enroll her child in a neuroscience course and hope maybe she'll learn both neuroscience and language. All she could do was place her in a playground and wait. At least she had time. We don't. But we have some things children don't. Cognitive endurance, abstract reasoning, and goal-directed motivation. And that's where MOOCs come in. MOOCs recreate what language schools often fail to provide: meaningful content, emotional engagement, structure, and low-stakes exposure. You don't have to force language learning anymore. Whatever you genuinely want to learn, psychology, neuroscience, philosophy, data, art, dogs, why your cat treats you as if she's your landlord, there's probably a course on that too out there. And while you're focused on understanding the material, the language sneaks in. Section 5. Dopamine and immersion. Dopamine doesn't make you smarter, but it does decide whether a task is worth your effort. Humor, narratives, visual metaphors. When lecturers turn ion channels into rival bars filled with sodiums and potassiums, or when the visual cortex is portrayed as a caricature with oversized eyes and hands, your brain leans in. Attention sharpens, memory consolidates, language sticks. Not because you tried harder, but because you cared. Conclusion. Language was never meant to be bullied into your brain. It was meant to be lived through. As adults, we don't need to become children to acquire language again. We need to be strategic. MOOCs aren't magic, but they are a modern workaround. A way to turn curiosity into immersion. So start treating language like what it is. A tool, a bridge, a side effect of doing interesting things. And if your English improves while you're busy learning something else, good. That's not cheating, that's neuroscience.